every single day when I open up my phone or my computer and I look at the news or I look at YouTube and I see what's going on here in Canada, I have one thing to say. Unfreaking believable. Today we're going to be taking a look at the NDP, Freeland, and some criticism by Jordan Peterson, the Premier of Saskatchewan, Scott Moe, and a couple of other clips. But before we get into it all, I want to encourage everyone to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. We're on route to 400,000 subscribers here on Mr. Sunshine Baby. Absolutely incredible. And as well as if you want to, piss off the government even more, I have an additional channel called House of Canada, and that's where all of my question period events and live streams happen, and that channel is almost at 100,000 subscribers. So if you really want to stick it to the government, I'd highly recommend checking out that channel, and the link for that is down in the description, and I'll even link it down below. Welcome back to another video, everybody. This is going to be a good one. You're going to want to stick around for the full thing. First of all, I want to talk about the NDP and Jagmeet Singh. So when you look at Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau, two of the most hated people in Canada for sure, but here's where there's a big difference. Justin Trudeau has been raised in this environment. His father was, prime minister in the past. His namesake, everything about Justin Trudeau, he's been, indoctrinated into this system, right? Just as a default. So I'm not saying we need to give him a pass, but he was born for this. He was born for corruption. He was born to be an a-hole. He was born to be hated. That was set in stone. Jagmeet Singh chose this path. He chose to be hated. He chose to be a NDP scum little rat. He chose to be a sellout, and he's choosing to, continue this coalition and block an election. And he actively knows this. He's going after his golden pension, which is in 340 days or 35 days from now. So chances of seeing an election before the next scheduled federal election are kind of unlikely. But when it comes to both of them, Trudeau, I think he's been pre-programmed for this. Jagmeet Singh has been, actively chosen this route. So I want to know down in the comments which one of them you actually detest the most. And you know what? Actually add Freeland to that list. So down in the comments, I want to know Freeland, Trudeau, Jagmeet, your list of who you dislike the most from 1 to 3. Without further ado, let's get into this here. So some more false promises by Jagmeet Singh and the NDP. The NDP says they demand inclusion on a national school lunch program in the upcoming spring budget. And you can see the top comment is, yay, more social programs to bleed our economy dry and increase taxes. Notice how they spend your money on something for your kids just before election time. And this is kind of the issue that a lot of people have. Now, look, these are they're in theory good ideas. So is the childcare. In theory, anyone who has a child, $10 a day childcare programs, that's beneficial, I suppose, if it actually works. And if it's not bleeding all of us dry. But the problem is it is. These programs, these social programs, these national rollout programs, they hurt every single person because we have an increase in taxes. So you want free lunches for your kids, sure, but then you're paying $500 a week for a family of 3 or 4 in groceries. So is it really worth it? I'm gonna at the end of the day say no. I don't think it is. I think it's false promises. It's going to increase taxes, and you can't trust these people. These national rollout programs. Families should be more independent and rely less on government handouts. And these are the same people that, as you can see right here, the NDP have sold their souls. This is from Brian Lilly. Part of the Toronto Sun. They are protecting the Liberals from further investigation of the Winnipeg lab story. What did you get in exchange? It ain't pharmacare or even anything close to it. So these people that are promising these national rollout programs of, free health care, free pharmacare, free or $10 a day child care, lunches for your kids, these aren't actually going to work. They're false promises to farm votes. If I could say, hey, do this one thing for me that benefits me, and I promise you'll make more money, or you'll get $100 a month. I promise you, don't worry. It's hard times, but this is false promises. You can't rely on the government, these greedy politicians to do that. You should be relying on someone who's promising to bill you less taxes and have you more independent, because at the end of the day, look at this man here in Kelowna. The NDP has promised tiny homes, and this is what the tiny homes look like.
First of all, they look ugly.
Abhinav Kanti didn't mince words when he described the new housing units currently being installed next to his business along Highway 97 in Rutland. He says he was expecting the new units to look similar to the tiny homes that were installed in Kelowna's North End, but that isn't the case.
When I look at this structure, it doesn't look very pleasing. It's an eyesore.
He fears that the new units will not only have a negative impact on nearby businesses like his, but also on tourism.
And I'm just thinking that when the tourists come in, this is the lovely sight of Kelowna.
Yeah, it's pretty greasy. The NDP is full of fake-ass promises just to try and get more votes. And if you don't believe me, watch how they construct their ad campaigns on social media. I'm blocking the music because it's just so horrible. This is a real ad campaign that the NDP has put out. We're not listening to that trash. All right. A banana cat says, my tummy hurts. I need to see a doctor. The other cat says, we're full. It's going to be 22-hour wait. But it's an emergency. You can go to a private clinic. Oh, in this economy, you know what, folks? I would rather have a private clinic instead of having to wait 20 plus hours. I don't have a family doctor. I don't think my family has a family doctor. My wife and kids don't even have family doctors because this is the world that we live in. No one can get family doctors. It costs so much money for everything because the government is tying up all of our money, all of our taxpayers' money into fake-ass promises, government rollout programs, and it's hurting all of us. And if you don't want to believe me in this YouTube video, how are your grocery bills? How is your rent? How is your mortgage? How is your home heating? It doesn't make any sense. These people need to be stopped. Now let's take a look at Scott Moe from Saskatchewan here, who's been putting up a pretty good fight against the federal government.
Weeks, as our government has called on the teachers' union to return to the bargaining table, we have made significant commitments to address classroom size and complexity. We have also said that substantial new funding for classroom size and complexity would be included in the upcoming provincial budget. The teachers' union has questioned this commitment and has used this as their reason to not return to the bargaining table and to continue with job action. So today, I am taking the very unusual step of announcing part of the education budget prior to budget day. This should clearly demonstrate our government's commitment to address teachers' concerns around classroom supports. So the 2024-25 provincial budget will include the largest increase in school operating funding ever in Saskatchewan's history. It will be $180 million of increased funding, up nearly 9% to $2.2 billion. This increase will include over $356 million that is specifically allocated to classroom supports, an increase of over $45 million, or about 15% since last year. That is a record budget to address classroom size and complexity. And we will continue to work very closely with our school divisions to ensure that this record investment is used where it is needed the most, right in our classrooms, supporting our students. We have already moved on a number of the teachers' union's other contract requests, including workplace safety enhancements, the ability to manage their own dental plan, and their request for the same salary formula as elected members have. While that's not the 23% salary increase that the teachers' union has demanded, the government has been making reasonable, affordable concessions to get the teachers' union to return to the table and reach a fair agreement for our teachers, and a fair agreement for Saskatchewan taxpayers.
If I'm not mistaken, Scott Moe has been fighting the carbon tax as well in Saskatchewan. So the two premiers, Danielle Smith and Scott Moe, have put up a pretty decent fight against the federal government's tax grab. And speaking of putting up a decent fight, we've got Leslyn Lewis from the Conservative Party of Canada, who had this to say on Twitter, or X. Stephen Guilbeault announced that the government will stop investing in new roads. Now he and other Liberal ministers refuse to show up to committee to answer questions. These Liberals are keeping Canadians in the dark about their extreme agendas to stop growth in Canada. It couldn't be written more well in stone or on the wall just of how corrupt these Liberals are. we're going to spend less on roads. We're going to do some tax theft and charge everyone up the wazoo with this carbon tax, which is right around the corner, April 1st. And it's not an April Fool's joke. This is the second time, I believe, or maybe even the third time that the Liberals now release a carbon tax on April 1st. It's like super sadistic. At least do the second. Why the first? Everyone knows it's April Fool's Day. But then you have Justin Trudeau, who says small things like this. Who's going to tell the Liberal Party that the synonym for pre-crime is communism?
Citizens cannot take their democracies for granted. Citizens cannot take their democracies for granted.
Citizens cannot take their democracies for granted. This comes from the man who has openly supported the communist Chinese regime of China. And then we have Justin Trudeau finally admits that Canadians feel unsafe as hateful protests repeatedly target Jewish communities and synagogues, stating his expectations of authorities act so everyone can always feel safe everywhere in this country after a $750 Liberal Party fundraiser was disrupted.
And can you comment about some of the protests that we've been seeing across the country in relation to the Israel-Hamas war, but particularly in Toronto? I mean, you had experience with this last weekend where your event was cancelled, and a lot of people were upset about that, upset how Toronto Police has talked about the hostility and confrontation between police and protesters now. What specifically is your government, if anything, going to do about this, or are these protests just allowed to happen in our country because it's a free country?
Well, first of all, nobody can remain indifferent to the suffering and the anguish going on in Gaza right now, this loss of civilian lives and the impact on Canadian families and people who are worried about their loved ones is entirely understandable. Canadians have a right to protest, absolutely, to make their anguish, their anger heard by other Canadians. That's important, and we will always protect that right. But when the protests turn to hatred or to acts of harassment, particularly against fellow Canadians, there's a line that's crossed. I've heard from too many members of the Jewish community particularly who are seeing their synagogues, their community centers, their neighborhoods protested, who feel unsafe in their own country. I know Canadians have very strong feelings about this conflict, and rightly so. There are horrible things that we are seeing. But it is not who we are to take it out on our fellow Canadians. Absolutely, there are things to be outraged about, things that people need to continue to protest about. But hateful or harassing behavior, particularly against neighbors, is not what we do here in Canada. And as that happens, or when that happens, I expect Canadians, including our police authorities, to act within the rules and within the law of making sure that everyone can always feel safe everywhere in this country.
Nobody feels safe with this guy running our country. I'll give you that one for free. Justin Trudeau is out of his mind, and he's like one of the most divisive people that we've ever seen. And that doesn't just stop at Justin Trudeau. It's with all of the other Liberal ministers, such as Chrystia Freeland. And now we're going to take a look at what Jordan Peterson has to say about Miss Freeland here. Chrystia, how can you fail to see the blatant conflict of interest and more general danger in this? Tags Freeland. Two explanations: an ignorance of history and of incentives so profound it's kind of a miracle, an attitude so cavalier that it's corrupt. Your Liberal Party announcement, you Liberal Party announced something simply stunning every single day. You do realize that anyone can post a blog for free, that there are literally zero impediments to local journalism? All right, let's see what Freeland actually said. Access to local news and information is essential, particularly in a country as vast as ours with communities large and small. And that's why we're providing significant new financial support to journalists and local media. Now, I don't fall under that category at all. This is just a YouTube channel. However, Do I get any incentives? Is there going to be like some sort of arrive can payment system going to me to help expose the Liberal government at this level? I don't know. It just seems like more money laundering. Where does it end, right? Where does it end? Why are they putting so much government subsidies into journalism and media? It doesn't make any sense. It should be independent. When you're relying on the government to pay you, chances are you're not going to criticize the government correctly. You're going to have a bias. It's like with any job, right? Are you going to go up to your boss and say, hey, boss, I don't think you're a very good boss. I think this, and that are things that you're failing to do, and you should do your job better, especially as my boss. What do you think your boss is going to say? You fired? I mean, no, it's just not something that you do. So having your media subsidized by the government is never really that good of a thing. Maybe certain subsidies, maybe a little bit. I don't know. I don't know the finances of the media, but to the extent that what we're doing right now, that's not okay at all. Jordan Peterson also had this to say on X: we will be 5 decades behind our American allies in economic development by the time the utterly incompetent Justin Trudeau and Liberal Party is done with us. And you know what? I kind of want to retract something I just said, because I realize how it sounds. I know I just said maybe some subsidies is good. I actually want to take that back. I know that was like 30 seconds ago, and I could probably edit it out. I don't actually know what I meant by that. I don't know a world where there could be a proper plan where the government subsidizes any amount of money to media without any strings attached. I don't see that happening. So even some subsidies, like a couple $1 million instead of billions or 500 million, I don't even know how that would work. I think that if media is going to be honest and transparent, I think that they should be completely independent from the government. And hey, I could easily cut that out in an edit, but I think I want to leave that in because that's just how my brain works. On the spot, maybe a little bit, and then work our way up. But no, actually, it doesn't even matter what government's in power. Even if the Conservatives were in power, I think the media should be absolutely clear of any subsidies from the government, because again, it goes back to you're not going to criticize your boss as you should if you're completely separate, if you're a separate entity. And if there's any subsidies, even a small percentage, even $2 million of subsidies of taxpayers' money towards the media, you're still not going to get the most honest and transparent, press that you should. And this is the National Post article that Jordan Peterson shared. Expect a finance minister in survival mode to turn on the spending taps. But the billions of dollars of new expenditure needed to shift the political dial could make an already grave fiscal situation much worse. And this is the fart-smelling face that is in charge of our finances. In nature, there are 4 psychological survival reactions: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And we should add Freeland as a verb or a noun. In politics, another can be added: spend. There you go. Freeland. Christian Freeland, the finance minister, has named April 16th as the date of the next federal budget. Since nothing much else is working when it comes to resurrecting the fortunes of the Liberal Party, polls have the Conservatives between 15 and 20 points ahead. A finance minister is in survival mode, can be expected to turn the spending taps to gush. And you're going to see a lot of that in the coming weeks or even months leading up to campaign season, which is probably going to begin at the end of the summertime. Leading into the Christmas season, you're going to see a lot of campaign ads because next year is election year. And you're going to see a lot of spending. Even the NDP is promising to have lunches for free at school. It's just going to be spend. Taxes are going to go up. Affordability is going to continue to go up. And these people are just always caught with their pants down. And here's another great example. Look at his face, Bill Blair, when he's asked a question, is priceless and depicts the confusion and lack of direction and leadership within the Liberal Party. We have had enough.
So last week's budget estimates for 2024-25 show $79 million is being reallocated out of ready forces. How do you square that with the promise for no cuts to the frontline needs?
Well, in 2017, through our strong, secured, and engaged defense policy, we committed to significantly increasing, almost doubling, actually it will in fact double, the defense budget between 2017 and 2026. So we are on a very positive upward trajectory of spending in defense. But we're spending Canadian taxpayers' dollars. And as in any bureaucracy, I think it's important that we look for the most efficient way to actually deliver the results that Canadians need and deliver for the Canadian Armed Forces. And so I've asked the Canadian Armed Forces and the Department of National Defence to look at some of our expenditures for things like consultants, things like executive travel, or even professional services. And I want to be clear, some of those professional services, particularly around the maintenance of our fleet, are absolutely essential to the good order of the Canadian Armed Forces. But there are some, I think it's incumbent upon every government and every bureaucracy to look for the most efficient ways in order to spend those valuable dollars to get the most public value for the Canadian Armed Forces and for Canada. And so we have been very carefully looking at our spending, but in fact our defense spending is increasing and will continue to decrease. And notwithstanding the plan that we put forward in 2017, we've also clearly indicated that we must do more. And so I have every expectation that with our defense policy update, we'll be able to bring future investments into the Canadian Armed Forces. We have a lot of work to do, and we've got the best people to tell us what needs to be done. We just have to go get it done.
We ain't got no more money left. What do you mean put more money into the Canadian Armed Forces? It's all gone to ammo for Ukraine. That's absolutely ridiculous, man. These people are just spending and spending and spending our money, and we need to put an end to it. And it's going to take so much time to fix this, right? I wish that right when Pierre gets in, and our new Prime Minister, Pierre Poilievre, right? Balloons drop from the ceiling. All of a sudden, bam, mortgage rates go down. Food prices are cut by 15, 20%. No more carbon tax. I freaking wish it could be that fast and that simple, but unfortunately it's not. It's going to be a lot of hard work ahead. It's going to be it's a big hill that we have to climb to get there. But I believe that if we gather collectively as a community, we come together, we stay on track, we continue to share videos like this and spread more awareness of the corruption of the Liberal Party. We get the Conservatives in, we get them a majority government, and then, you know, what do we do after that? Well, we need to also keep an eye on the Conservatives, make sure that they're staying on track too, right? And we can't just say, "Oh yeah, no, what they're doing is okay." Just turn a blind eye to it. No, we got to stay on track. Affordability, right? Less red tape. You don't want to have to go through 2, 3, 5, 10 years worth of permits to be able to build a shed in your backyard, for crying out loud, right? Less government, more independence in Canada. As long as we stay on that track, I think we're going to be all right in the years to come. But I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Any questions, comments, or concerns about any topics that were covered, look forward to reading them when the video is posted. And that's where we're going to end it, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already, as well as please consider checking out the House of Canada YouTube channel, link down in the description or the pinned comment below. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.